That's literally what was off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So there's more to say along those lines.
People should know that. I mean, this was not 7,000 people doing this. This was what you sort of caught from your own reporting in the Trump administration. I mean, the facts are probably few and far between, but I think that's the point, right? Like those of us covering this, we come on the air to do our shows, and the point is there's so much. So let's just stick with DJ. I mean, I think that if there was a moment where your whole body could relax and you could celebrate someone, it was the 13-year-old cancer survivor who would like to be a police officer. Yeah. It was a genuinely beautiful moment, in the moment that probably was most familiar to the State of the Union addresses we were both a part of. Problem is, in the beauty of that child is the tragedy of the Trump presidency. Because we don't know how he survived pediatric cancer, but it is likely he benefited from some sort of cancer research. And it is a fact that Trump has slashed cancer research. It's a fact. By eliminating NIH and by all the cuts, pediatric cancer trials are halted. And you know, God willing, he won't need any more treatment. But if he does, I hope that NIH wasn't responsible for anything that let him live this long. He also talked about wanting anyone who murdered a cop to receive the death penalty. But Donald Trump's first action was to pardon all of the January 6th insurrectionists who assaulted and violently beat cops.
Who were convicted of it.
Correct. So I think there's a shallowness, and I think that I mean, I know you, and I know you probably could have gone on for another 30 minutes with the fact check, and it's vital, and we have to do it. But I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel, and I let myself feel joy about DJ, and I hope he's alive for another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives and the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump's supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy and then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people.
Lawrence, we're about 3 minutes out from what we're expecting to be the Democratic response from Senator Alyssa Slotkin. Let me get your initial response to what you just heard.
Well, let's remember, it's hard to do this in the Trump era, that if any previous president had stood up there and said, we need Greenland, the 2 people behind him, the vice president and the speaker, would have quickly conferred and rushed that president to the hospital. Ended the speech right there, with an overt burst of madness by the president at the microphone. There would have to be an intervention, but not now. What's interesting about the lies tonight is one of his favorites wasn't there. And that is after really intense 48 hours of coverage of tariffs. He did not tell the American people the lie tonight that foreign countries pay the tariffs. CNBC and other outlets have been really educating the voters intensely, over the last couple of days about who pays the tariffs. We had Prime Minister Trudeau say to the American people today, your government chose to do this to you. And so the mystery or the question of who pays the tariffs is over. And people now know it. He didn't try to get away with that one. And the tariffs was the shortest section of the speech. It is the news of the day and the world. And Donald Trump was afraid to talk about his tariffs.
He did tell a lie about it. Can you indulge me on this one?
You got 1 minute and 10 seconds before she starts doing it.
Okay, this has to do with Doge. Doge's report card, Elon Musk would say, is Treasury rates going down. And Donald Trump tonight said rates went down today. They didn't go down because Doge is reducing the deficit. Rates went down today